learners, today when we jump into our speaking and listening, we are going to be doing a new read aloud. We're done with The Wind in the Willows. We'll start a new read aloud. Respectful, right? We're going to start a new read aloud today, so we'll jump into a new set of vocabulary. Last week, we just talked briefly about omnivores and carnivores and herbivores. This week, we're going to go into our new reading, and we will talk about it a little bit. So animal classification vocabulary. Our first one is a kingdom. Now, I honestly put this picture up there because I didn't have a good picture to go with kingdom. A kingdom is a major group into which all living things are classified. How many kingdoms are there?
5.
How many kingdoms are there?
5.
There are 5 kingdoms. In 3rd grade, how many will we focus on? 2. We'll focus on animals and plants. Fabulous. So it's just going to be groups which into all living things are classified, are those kingdoms. We're learning about 2 of them in 3rd grade. So kind of why I put a silly picture on there is I just simply didn't know what to put on there for a kingdom. Next up is going to be, our word is going to be life cycle. You guys know what a life cycle is, right?
Yeah.
And we talked a little bit about it. A life cycle is just the stages which a living thing goes through from birth until death. So the life cycle continues over and over again due to that birth or that seed planting and regrowing. So it starts out small, it grows, it goes through its life cycle. Somewhere in there, it probably reproduces, and then the life cycle continues again. And that creature, animal, any living thing is going to die, and the life cycle continues through its offspring. Okay. This is that quick example of it's a Gulf fritill. It's just an example of a type of butterfly. Its life cycle. So why we put that image up there. Next up, we have an adapt. I put the polar bear up there before. We read about the polar bear thing. And that word adapt can be a tricky one, but adapt just means to change. And we are going to be talking about specifically changing to the environment for survival. For example, the polar bear has adapted. It has white fur to survive where it's at. Other animals have different color fur, or they have different features in them that help them adapt to survive where they are at. Our next word is going to be, oh, look, my word got moved. We'll go back to it. Our next word is going to be characteristics. So you can't see it. It got hidden by the bottles. But it's just something that makes a person, thing, or group different. So these aren't people, but it's a group. And the reason I put this picture up there to help us remember characteristics is these are both the same thing, right? But we can categorize it by short or by tall or by a picture on it and no picture on it. So the characteristics of it is they have something different about them. They can go in a group because they're both Coca-Cola, or they could go in different groups based on height or what's on them. Next up, we have to classify, to put things into groups based on similarity or type. And we've already talked about classify, haven't we? So I put on there, this is actually how things are done. So life. All things that have life can be classified into domains, kingdoms, phylus, class, order, family, genus, and species. We are focusing on the kingdoms. Okay? 2 kingdoms is what we're going to be focusing on. And then we have vertebrates. We already talked about vertebrates a little bit, right? Vertebrates are going to be animals that have a... And last but not least, we have invertebrates. Invertebrates are animals that do... This is going to be the biggest categorization underneath that animal because there are a lot more animals that do not have backbones than animals that do have backbones. I remember when I was young, one thing I remember that the biggest difference is you usually know the vertebrates more because they're bigger animals. Invertebrates can be pretty small creatures. Are all of them small?
No.
No, definitely not. But they can be some pretty small creatures. Okay? And that is our last for this one, and we're going to jump into our reading. We do have a little thing to do before we move on to that, though. So hold on one second.